Let's explore the top no-code tools of 2026, because a lot of them have changed with new AI features and non-AI features, both of which are pretty exciting. Our first one is Framer. Just check out some of these amazing looking website templates. They come from the Framer marketplace, which is one of the largest, with thousands of different types of templates and plugins and tools that you can start using straight in your website designs. As a no-code tool, it has a lot of flexibility and reminds me a lot of how Figma works, allowing you to really be creative when it comes to creating website designs. Here's how Framer works. You select to log in. This takes you to a dashboard of all your sites. You can select one of them, which takes you into the visual editor. This thing is really cool because you can zoom in and out and move it about wherever you need and select any item to kind of edit and modify it. From there, you can customize your sections, turn them into reusable components, which you can edit in its own view, and then copy and paste these anywhere into the site that you might need to use. Framer also has a number of new AI tools, which I want to show you. The first is their wireframing tool. You can select it from the plus sign here and select wireframe. From here, you can ask it to create something like a personal page, and it creates the wireframe for that page inside of your canvas, and then you can customize it and theme it however you need. Next up is their workshop tool. It uses AI to generate components. Things that you can create out of a single prompt, like this glow effect, which was created from this prompt, or this Bitcoin tracker created from this prompt here. So it's really up to you how you want to use it, but it's pretty easy to use. I'm going to copy this prompt over here, head into my design that I created earlier, hit Ctrl K, type in workshop, and then paste in that component to be generated. What it's going to do is start generating it here off to the side. As you can see, it's being coded up, and then I can drag this back into my design to start using. A pretty cool way to create small little components. Our next tool is Webflow. Let me show you how Webflow operates. This is the dashboard. You can head to your websites by opening them up in the editor. It takes you to this IDE, which is a little bit more strict because its underlying structure is basically how HTML and CSS works. The website you're seeing here is actually my design course, and I built this as one of my very first websites on Webflow. Under the hood, you can see how all these divs are nested. This is that HTML structure I was talking about. On the right-hand side inspector, we have all the CSS, which is just visually represented in kind of like a GUI interface. The difficulty with Webflow is that it's not as easy to move components around. As you can see, it's locked into that rigid ecosystem. Unlike Framer, for example, where you can move different elements across in more of an absolute positioning type of way. Now, this also has some benefits because it forces you into that strict system. But for me, I kind of like the flexibility that a lot of the new no-code tools are providing. When it comes to new features, Webflow have this thing called AppGen, which lets you turn a prompt into an application you can deploy independently. You can select it up here. I'm going to give it this prompt to convert JavaScript into TypeScript and see what it comes up with. It's generated this thing over here, which I suppose works, but it's also not really a component, so I can't plug it straight into my website design. It's its own deployment as a mobile application with its own URL. This is Wix Studio. It's our next no-code platform that I want to take a look at. One thing you might notice is that the dashboard has a lot more information on it. This is because they're trying to focus in more for design studios and agencies, and all this information can be quite useful if you're doing things like trying to collect analytics for your sites, as well as see things like contact leads or contact forms. This is the visual editor for Wix Studio. It works a little bit like a combination of Framer and Webflow, where you can still move about different elements and have control over their positioning, and it also has all those layers, but the underlying structure isn't based on things like HTML or CSS or components, but more with the Wix Studio system that they've put together. This means that you can select text and you get an inspector to modify text, or if you select a button, you have an inspector specifically for that button component. The drawback is that you can't realistically pull these components out of Wix Studio once they're inside. Not that a lot of people often do this, but it is something to be aware of. One of the new features that they've implemented is the ability to use AI to create responsive design. It's something that I haven't seen before, and it allows you to simply select a section, select generate responsive design, and it just goes ahead and creates one for a tablet view, a mobile view, and a desktop view. Once you double check it and confirm, it's just done for you. And it's definitely a really cool feature that I think should be seen in a lot more no-code tools these days. This here is Elementor. While it's a no-code platform, it's not an independent one because it sits on top of WordPress. Because of that, when you log into its dashboard and want to create a site, you can't just do so without having a paid plan. So the alternative is to download the Elementor plugin and run it yourself on a self-hosted website of WordPress, or use something like Hostinger, which allows you to have a WordPress website up in the cloud. That's what I'm going to do. So this pain point of having to do additional steps to get it up and running is also one of the benefits, because once you do, then you have full control over the system, while other no-code frameworks might lock you into their ecosystem. This here is the Elementor IDE. As you can tell, a lot is happening on the left sidebar, and when you compare it to the latest no-code tools, it feels like it's aged quite a bit. It doesn't have the same flexibility to drag and drop elements. Elements look very basic without much that you can edit, and it really needs you to be able to customize it if you want it to look very well. Additionally, if you want to use any features like components, you have to upgrade to a paid plan, otherwise you're just simply locked out of it. One new feature that Elementor has is this ability to create a website design with AI. I tested this out and I found it a little bit tedious to go through creating a brief summary for what I wanted from the website. But when that whole process finally finished, I got a sitemap which I could then generate a wireframe from. The design for the wireframe wasn't that great. And on top of that, when I actually tried to export the design as components I could use inside of Elementor, I found that I couldn't do this. I was only able to attach it to a paid site, and that's not what I wanted to do. The next no-code tool is Squarespace. It's one that I haven't used as much, and I'll explain why shortly. But let's jump into the dashboard and the visual editor so you can see how it works. This is its dashboard, where you get to see a little bit about your website. To edit it, you can select here and select edit and enter into the visual editor that it has. It provides you with the basic drag and drop functionality that gives you a bit of a grid in the section you work in. You can edit different types of elements, allowing you to edit some of the basic stuff like opacity, different types of sizing. You can also add in new sections using pre-made assets, which I'll get into shortly when you create a new website and how that works. I would say that its interface is made for non-experts, people that are just trying to build a website and aren't professional designers or developers. And here's the best example of that. When you're building a website, you can choose from the pre-made templates they have, or you can use AI to build together a website with these different sections that you can select, add, and modify. These come pre-made, and they're very basic layouts with something like a hero section or a feature section, and you can change the colors as well as topography, but all of this is really basic editing. It's nothing that I, as a designer, would want to do personally, because I like to have full control over the designs that I create. Our next no-code tool is Duda. They let you build websites from a template or also with AI. Let's take a look at what the visual editor looks like. Here is the IDE. It lets you drag different components, but it's a bit more restrictive, kind of like Webflow is. They have a side panel where you can customize each one of the elements that you're currently selecting, and on the left-hand section where you get to see all the layers. They have a new AI stack that allows you to build using AI, which I'm going to try out right now. And here's what it's generated. I would say that this top navigation header looks very generic, so does the hero section. The color contrast, I would say, is probably the only good thing I like. It's used very nice colors in good sequences here, but the content feels very repetitive and very mundane, like I'm just looking at a basic template. Here's our next no-code tool, Loopple. Let's see how they go, because they look very AI oriented to create a website design. And here's the design it's generated. Kind of basic like before, but I want to customize it and have a look at how its IDE works. And here's that IDE. I've got different types of sections here, but I can't drag and drop them. I can only select them and modify them here in this inspector element. I do have an AI assistant here, which I can ask to do different changes. Let's see if it can figure out what I want changed. It has a nice before and after the changes, which have been completed how I want, but I wish I had more drag and drop flexibility here. It does let me change the theme of the website, but if I pick the wrong colors, then they might not work well together. This next no-code tool is called Unbounce. It's one that I couldn't cover last year because the only way to use them was to have a paid plan, but now they're allowing you to build for free, so let me test it out. Alright, looks like I'm in, which is really cool. Their ecosystem is more than what I originally expected. I can immediately start building a page from one of their templates or from a blank canvas. Let's select this one over here and see what it's like editing in their IDE. It reminds me a little bit of how the Shopify IDE lets you move different types of components. The inspector reminds me a little bit of Webflow in terms of the right-hand side where I can edit different stuff, but the interface and the icons look a little bit dated, like they haven't done many updates to this. Even the layers are actually located here at the bottom, but pop up as a sidebar, and I can't lock them. I can only make them disappear or appear. If I right-click on them, I can't bring up a context menu to delete them. So it does have some limitations compared to some of the top contenders in the no-code space. The next tool I was going to show you was Bildr, something I covered last year. But unfortunately, due to the rise of AI, they're shutting down because they just can't keep pace with all the changes and how many new startups are starting. Finally, this is Axil Design, my own no-code platform that I've been building for the last year. I would best describe it as a vibe designing tool that allows you to use AI models to create components and website designs. It has this infinite canvas, sort of like Figma or Framer, and it also allows you to resize components and websites to view what they might look like on mobile, tablet, and desktop. I've also integrated this quick add section where you can quickly add different types of components. I've also imported a vast library of Flowite components, which you can literally drag and drop into your frame and see what those designs look like. It has all the AI integrations you might expect, such as being able to create variations of components and see them built in real time on your canvas. Additionally, I've made it flexible, so you can see all the underlying code and actually copy paste it straight out to use within your own tools. At any point in time, you can also see the dark or light version of different types of components you create, and it also works with HTML components or even with React components like things from Shadcn. I'd love to hear your thoughts on Axil Design, because it's something that I have been working on for a while now, though I don't know if a lot of interest exists in it, so let me know in the comments below. I hope you guys learned a lot about the different types of no-code platforms out there. If there's any that I missed, then definitely add them in the comments below. Additionally, a big thanks to Framer for sponsoring this video and making it happen. If you want to learn more about their platform, then I've added a link in my description too, where you can check them out. Thank you.